All right, guys, whose line is it anyway? That's my question to you. Seriously, what lines do I use, what fishing lines, that is, do I use during the tournament season? Now, I just concluded the Bassmaster Elite Series season for 2023. I'm going to give you all of the lines that I fish with. I've got my Sunline bag right here. This is the bag of mostly fluorocarbon that I take around with me, keep in the back of my Tundra. And then I've got my little other bag, bag that I use for all my braids. And the reason that I separate the braid and the fluoro is because I take in the fluoro, I put that in the truck, in the cab of the truck. I try to keep it temperature variant, resistant, so the temperature's not going up and down. Don't want it real hot, don't want it real cold. I don't know that it makes a big difference with fluorocarbon, but that's got stuck in my head years ago, and I try to stay with that. The braid does not get affected by heat or cold, and so that's why it's fine to store that this way. But I'm going to just start with what's going on in the braid. I got it stuffed with all kind of different braids, and I'm just going to show you what I've been using for this past season, kind of give you actually a little preview for what's coming up. But we'll start with the bigger braids. The X Plasma, this Sunline X Plasma 50-pound braid. This is my go-to on big topwaters, frogs, and punching. It casts amazing. I use the darker green. Really, really good casting. That plasma coating actually keeps that braid from getting really wet. So that's my choice for that. If I'm going to be fishing smaller topwaters, like the little smaller walk-in baits and things like that, I'm going to drop down to the 30-pound X Plasma. That's where I'm going there. And then on the spinning rod side, I'll tell you, I got to explain what I've done the last few years, because I've used X Plasma almost exclusively from 12-pound to 18-pound on spinning. But now there's a couple newer lines that I've been experimenting with, and let me show you the X Plasma. Like, this is the gold standard in my opinion on the spinning. It's the 12-pound X Plasma in that bright green. You can see it really easily, really well. It's held up great for me. And the only time that I might, I would switch up to like maybe 16-pound if I was going straight braid on like a wacky rig, something like that, around heavier cover. But during last year, they came out with this D braid. This is a JDM product that Sunline has. They're not making this anymore. They've changed the name of it. So this worked really well. And the thing with the D braid is it was a denser line, and it would help your line get down if you're drop shotting, Nico rig, things like that. Neko rig, excuse me, if you didn't understand what I said. So then this summer, Sunlight came out with this Siglon PE, the AMZ 8. This is really good line. It is an orange color for the smaller diameters, and on the bigger sizes they actually have a 35 on the dark green, and that is going to be my new go-to on those smaller top waters, because this line is just unbelievably silky smooth. I thought the other one was smooth. I thought the X Plasma was smooth. That stuff is super, super smooth. And then there's the Overwatch. The Overwatch is extremely dense, and it's a tri-colored line, so it's got a distance of dark green and then some light green, a little light green strips, so that you can see it easier. But this is an interesting line. Drew Cook fished with it last year. I have not fished with this yet. Drew Cook fished with it last year, and he said he was blown away, absolutely loved it. I think this might be my new wacky rig type line. So we'll see. I'll give you guys more feedback next year once we get some experience with that. So that's my braid bag and what I use braid for. Now we'll get into the other bag, and this is my little pouch of the stuff. And in the stuff I've got my Spro scissors. Those things are super sharp, awesome. Got my KVD line conditioner. You make sure, just a note, you want to put that on when your line is dry and let it dry. and then it'll work better. Got my little stickers to be able to tell when I put my line on, and I got various pliers. I've got my glasses in here because when I'm tying on line, putting line through my guides, my ojos ain't what they used to be. That's Spanish for eyes, in case you didn't know. But then also a little fun deal is my ice bucket. This joker's been through the war. It's actually, it went through Vietnam, I think. At least it looks like it. But this is what I keep my line in when I'm spooling it up. So it won't run off anywhere, won't do anything, and it makes a really loud noise so that other people can't talk while you're doing line. That's cool too. Unless you're playing music, like I often do, and then I have to turn the music up louder, which is also fun. And then, got to keep one of these together. A little Cashin rod tip kit. Comes with everything that you need, and even Cashin even has the little lighter in there. I don't know if those are on the Cashin website yet or not, but it's pretty handy to have because I'll go through 1 or 2 rod tips during the year, and of course it's like never the one that you have, so the little kit with all the different sizes on it is really a good idea. But I'm going to start with my bread and butter, probably, is the shooter. This is the premium fluorocarbon that Sunline makes. It is probably, I mean, it's got the absolute best materials, and I try to tell people the difference between, you know, the shooter and the sniper is like shooters kind of like the Trilane XT back in the day, if you guys are that old like me, and then the sniper is like the XL. It's more limp, but you don't have a stretch difference with these either. So you know, fluorocarbon has less stretch, a little less stretch than mono does, but it doesn't have that memory, so it makes it last a lot longer, and it's obviously a lot more sensitive. But the shooter that's what I put. Everything that's a flipping, pitching, worming situation, I'm going to be slow, or I'm going to be getting into cover, and I'm going to be setting the hook. Shooter is the deal. Flipping, Carolina rig, throwing a weightless worm, dragging a jig, anything in that realm, it's going to be shooter. That line, I would say, I even throw the 18-pound shooter. This is right here. I throw that with a 1/2 ounce chatterbait most of the time. You can absolutely wrench 5 and 6 pounders and just heave them into the boat and don't even think about it. That line is just stout for the pound test that you have. And then when you jump over to the sniper, which is what I use for basically everything else. Most other moving applications, if you wanted to just generalize everything from, let's say, spinner baits to crankbaits and jerk baits, any other moving bait like that, you can throw sniper and have no problems. I use sniper with my leaders on the spinning applications, especially when we go up north. That's really where I get my when I use my leaders. When I want the bait to be very supple. I want it to be, it's a finesse presentation. Anytime I'm going to the Great Lakes, Lake St. Clair, any place like that, sniper is going to be on my leaders as well. So that's kind of my do-all for those. And I'm going to dip down into here. Got some new stuff coming up. Can't talk about that yet. While we're on the leaders situation, the Sunline FC leader, my Baroshi, that's it right there. That's the 6-pound test. This is actually like pound for pound, a little bigger diameter than the FC Sniper, but this stuff has really high abrasion resistance. So it's not quite as supple as, say, the FC Sniper, which is why I go for the FC Sniper more in like the real clear water applications. If I'm around where the water's got any kind of stain to it, I mean any kind of stain, I'm going with my Baroshi. Super, like I said, super abrasion resistant. And when I first got it, I put 8-pound on shaky head, and I gave it to my daughters when we were fishing over spring break a couple years ago, and I never retied it, and they caught 5-6 fish and just drug that shaky head all over the place for about 3 days. So I was like, all right, that's legit abrasion resistance. and that's the Mabaroshi. And it's nice because it comes in the little spools and it's colored, so you get a little bit of camouflage as well in your line. One of the only other lines I do use the Sunline Crank FC. I use it in 8, 10, 12, and 14. If I'm shallow cranking, there is not a better line than that Crank FC. It's got the plasma coating on it. That plasma coating really helps next level with abrasion resistance, and I feel like it's real supple, so it's a good combination. It's a little more forgiving than the FC Sniper, and I love it I've used it for jerkbait fishing, and it's fine for jerkbaits as well. But that coating, when you're banging crankbaits and stuff off of rocks and hard cover, that coating is really good. Trying to see what else I have in here. I don't have a whole lot of other. I mean, I just have different diameters of the shooter and the sniper, because of those are my biggest line uses. I use a ton of that, the sniper and the shooter. Those are really my go-to fluorocarbons, and that's really about it. I'm trying to look around to see what else I have down in here. Some of my spare stuff in my leader bag. I've done the leader bag before. My leader bag, I have some of the mono in there as well. Use that, just very, very niche small things, mainly just prop baits on in Florida, kind of thing. But yeah, I use Sunline. I've been using Sunline since before I was ever sponsored by Sunline. I was actually sponsored by a different brand at one point years ago. I mean, like 15 plus years ago. And their diameters were okay until you got to about 17, and then the 17 was just awful to fish with. I hated it, and I found myself not fishing heavier baits because of that. And then I stumbled onto shooter a number of years ago. Stumbled onto the shooter, and I grabbed some 20 and was blown away with how smooth and supple the 20-pound was and how strong it was. So then I was like, all right, let's go up. I went up to the 22. Really like that, same deal. And then I went up to 25, and I had no problem flipping and pitching 25 with like your heavier creature baits, like a Missile Baits Destroyer, 3/8 ounce weight or up bigger. You could just effortlessly pitch and flip that 25-pound test. So I was buying Sunline years before I was sponsored by them, and I've not looked back ever since. And in all due respect to other line companies, some of the other line companies have really kept up with their technology as well. Seagar is one of them. They have really good fluorocarbons. I'm not as familiar with their fluorocarbons to be able to tell you the difference between red, gold, and the Tatsu or whatever else they have. But for my applications, for my livelihood, if I had nothing else, I'm gonna have Sunline on when money counts. You know what I mean? When I'm in tournaments and it's the difference between $10,000 and nothing, or $100,000 and second place, third place, fourth place, whatever you might end up if you lose that fish that you hooked otherwise. Sunline is what I'm going to count on. I've got all the confidence in the world in it. But some of the other, like I said, some of the other line companies have really come along with their technology, and if it's not one of the premier brands of line, I would be a little bit skeptical. I know there's some smaller brands that guys are really relying on and speak very highly of, like K9 Fishing Line. I know the owner, Kelly, super nice guy. He's huge in the crappie fishing world. A lot of lighter applications there, 2 and 4 pound test, 6 pound, things like that. But I know some guys in the bass world that have been using them. I just haven't had the experience with them, so I really can't speak on them. But glad that there's some other options for guys out there. But man, for where I'm at, Sunline is what I count on. Those are kind of the different lines that I have. If you have any questions on any of the Sunlines, especially, drop them down there. Or if you have any experience, you want to give a big shout out to the brands that you're fishing with, whatever it might be, drop that down in there. Let's all learn a little bit more, see where we are here at the end of 2023 as far as fishing lines are and what we have confidence in. But there's my confidence right there, baby.